in Edinburgh because of the wait list. We're also starting in Dundee on the 10th of December as well. So that's basically as much housekeeping as I can give you the notes on. So I'm going to hand over to Firas Kneiser from Standard Life and Jim Shaw from Standard Life, and also David Thomas from Comet Global Consulting.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Is my mic working? Do we know or no? We don't. Hello? Can you hear me? Good. Hello everyone. Thank you all for coming. I just wanted to do a quick round of introduction to the team before we jump into this. So I'm Firas, I'm head of decisioning at Standard Life. With me is David Thomas, who's Comet. And Comet had been really integral in bringing a lot of the decisioning capability into Standard Life. So we functioned together as partners, and so we're presenting together as partners. And with me as well is Jim Shaw.
Hello.
Jim Shaw is a data architect, and he's really the mastermind. I'm the one who does all the fluffy marketing spiel, and then Jim actually puts it to life. So, He's a marketect, not an architect. Right, so Standard Life, I guess it doesn't need a lot of introduction, but it's a homegrown organization. We do savings and investments. We've got 4.5 million customers on our book. We've got 1.5 million investors across 50 different countries. We're a FTSE 100 company. Obviously, we're a company with a lot of legacy, with a lot of history. We're deemed to be, if you think of Standard Life as a brand, you'd think it's quite a dated brand and quite an old brand. So the real challenge for us is to see how could we actually start bringing Standard Life into modern times. So that's the real challenge. So before I actually kick into the stuff that we are working into, I'm going to leave you with our Chief Marketing Officer, Stephen Ingledew, to talk a bit about that and a bit about the change. So you could have a bit of that. If I could see how to play the video. Do I just need to click it?
Hi, my name is Stephen Ingledew. I'm the Managing Director at Standard Life, responsible for marketing. We recognised we needed to evolve our overall business strategy and our overall marketing strategy to support that, to become much more customer driven. We recognised that customers were changing in terms of their expectations of what they wanted from a savings and investment company. And that change was also being fueled by new technology. Rather than just focus in terms of what we manufacture, we're focused much more on the experience that we give to our customers. And all of this means evolving the way that the business operates from just being a manufacturing and a supplier of products to really a retail operation, and really thinking like a retailer in the way that we engage customers.
So that's really the challenge that we have, and this is what the Chief Marketing Officer Stephen Ingledew had set out for us: is that we need to change, we need to dramatically change the way that we do things internally. So if we wanted to function as a retailer, we need to appreciate that our customers are across different devices. So I'm going to tout a word which is omnichannel, that obviously you're all very familiar with, so I'm not going to go into that. But that's one of the key things that we said. We have to be able to move from old print-based communication, which is what Standard Life used to do, to be able to cater to modern consumers and where they are. This one is a slide that's dear to my heart, because actually the creator and mastermind of this sliding concept is sitting right in front of me over here, Rob McLeod, who's from Comet, and in a moment of genius while he was sitting in the garden, it's like he had an epiphany that actually the sales funnel is dead, and let's bring out the watering can. So he wrote a blog post about it, and I think it's really powerful, and it really reflects where we are in terms of understanding customers. Is that, traditionally the organization would like to shove everybody literally down a funnel, but we're saying we need to appreciate the diversity that we have in our customer base and really start understanding the customers. So this is what we set out to do. And if we understand who our customers are and what they want, then we need to start, personalizing the experience to them. So we need to start really, creating relevant communication, and we've moved even from using the word campaign internally, so even the language has changed from talking about campaigns to actually talking about conversations. So how do we build that conversation with customers? We're heading towards, so we're talking about all this differentiation in the strategy, but we're also talking about something, and it's a vision that's very clear for us, which is segment of one, is how do we get to the segment of one, and what are the stages that are actually going to get there, and what does it feel like for the customer? So for the customer, what we're looking at is we've had a scattered customer experience, which was really disconnected. So we started looking at how do we start joining all of this up, and then the end goal, I guess, is how do we optimize this customer experience. I would say right now we started joining up a lot of it, and we've seen quite good successes about it, but the goal is how do we really optimize some of this stuff. So I'm going to hand over to David in this context to tell you, because I think it's really good to have an outside view into the change that we've done. So Comet joined us, I guess, 2 years ago with all the challenges that we had on our plate, and really have been integral as partners in developing all of this change. So I'll hand over to David so he could talk to you a bit about it.
Thank you. So as Firas said, we started with Standard Life back in 2014. And the first thing we really did at that point was to do an analysis of their current processes, the people they have both within Firas's team and some of the other related teams, and also what the infrastructure is. So, how were they currently doing things? Firas talks about campaigns, and back then that was the area of focus. How were they delivering their campaigns? What we saw was that there was a small number of analysts in Firas's team, and they were using a range of tools and techniques, and often a range of data sources and processes. So this meant that things were taking longer than they should. There was a bit about consistency, and actually was how did you maintain the standards. Also from a customer perspective, how are we then joining the campaigns and the conversations together? So what we did was then say, well, how are we going to deliver the roadmap? So we then spoke to Firas and some of the leadership team and said, where do we want to take this? And what does good look like? It's not going to happen overnight, but what does that roadmap look like? And as part of that, it's then going around customer conversations. So how are we then joining inbound interactions with the outbound communications that we're sending out? And for us, communications doesn't have to be marketing material, it can be operational mailings or operational communications, whether it's DM, email, SMS, and there's going to be an increasing number of channels. So it's really in joining all that together. So as part of that, technology became very important, and it is around the infrastructure. Jim's going to talk about the architecture and how we make it happen from a data perspective, but also it's how do we arm Firas and his team with the correct tools to then build increased customer engagement. So that was back in 2014. So how are we doing against plan? So in 2015, we implemented the inbound solution, the overall technology stack is the IBM Customer One Experience tool. We implemented the inbound solution with the contact center, and also implemented the IBM campaign for outbound communications. And as part of that, working together, we managed to achieve that in a record time, and had official feedback from the vendor that was the quickest worldwide implementation of both the inbound solution with the outbound. So that was all very well. And I should say, one of the things Firas talks about working together, one of the things we did do was then work with a range of colleagues both within Comet but also within Standard Life. So you've got Firas here who manages the team of the analysts, you've got myself here from Comet, but you've got Jim from the architecture side. And working with us, we've also got business analysts, and we've also got other people from some of the IT team. So very much this cross-functional way of working. So this year, what have we been doing this year? So this year, we've been increasing the number of inbound targeted messages on the contact center, but we've also been then migrating some of the regular campaigns through the previous tool to the new IBM campaign tool, and really gearing up the use of the tool and getting rid of some of the legacy processes. As I said, we're very much focused on the customer and customer engagement. So part of that now is looking ahead about how might the tool set be used for operational communications. And we're working with Jim, Firas, and a number of people around the business about what does this look like. It could be a range of SMS reminders, it could be email, but actually what does that look like? The other thing which is quite important, excuse me, is that we've got the solution successfully implemented with the contact centre, but there's going to be more and more touch points that we want to implement with the solution and use some of that logic and learning that we're building to then feed out across other channels. So that could be the website, mobile, there'll be a range of other channels that we want to bring into the solution. So that's really the journey that we've been on and continue to be on. Jim's now going to talk about the importance of data and how we then get the data structured to meet some of these challenges. Jim.
Hi, can you all hear me okay? Hi there. So I'm the techie guy. These guys have got the vision, they know what they want to do, but we've got to deliver it somehow. Delivering data, dead easy, isn't it? No problems ever there? Yeah, that's how it goes in our place. Right, so we know how it goes, we've got to get the data, it's going to be difficult, we're going to have lots of issues. So we just have to do it. So what's happened is we work together, we're all co-located. As an IT person, I'm embedded in the team. So the guys that are setting the vision, setting the requirements, telling us what they want, we're working with them, we're sitting next to them. That makes things a whole load easier. But data is becoming really important, obviously. So we have to respect it. So at this point, so again, I'm a techie guy. We've got all sorts of interesting analogies about driving cars here, which I'm probably going to get wrong. But I think what I'm meant to say is, so we get this data, we respect it, we look after it, but it's a bit like a car. There's no point in waxing it and polishing it if you don't take the thing out the garage. So we've got to get the data, we've got to make sure it's of an appropriate quality, but we've also got to make sure that we utilise it. The other thing we have to do is, when we start looking at data quality, we can't fix everything. We could spend a heck of a lot of budget fixing a lot of stuff, but that's no good. At the end of the day, we're a commercial organisation. We have to make money. So we've got to get the balance. We've got to look after our data, treat it properly, but we've got to be focused on how we do that. Right, this is better for me. We've got away from Ferraz's lovely pictures. And now we get to boxes. I'm an architect, I like boxes. I don't know how well you can read these slides, but what we have is, but this is it summarised up to make it easy to explain. So what we've done is we've differentiated our data that exists in existing operational data sources. So we pull data from all sorts of legacy systems, on mainframes, DB2 databases, IMS, Oracle, all this horrible stuff that rightly so our marketing colleagues don't want to know anything about. That's not their job. One of our main aims in this is the marketing guys, some of them are spending 80% of their time moving data about, cleaning data, transforming data. That's not their job, that's my job. So the IT guys need to make sure that we can deliver them the data they need in the state they need it in so that it's ready for consumption. So what we do is we bring the data from the operational sources, the customer data sources, and we start to summarise it. We talk about aggregating the data and we start to shape it. So we've got two main aggregated data sources. One's about who the customer is, what products they hold, their demography, the valuations. So that's one customer data source. We've got another data source which is about customer behaviour, interactions, when we've sent statements out to customers, when they've phoned back into us. So these are the sources of data that we're then using and shaping for consumption by the marketing guys to do sensible things with. So the data goes from the operational data sources into an analytic data mart. One of the other interesting things we're doing in there is, I have a background in data warehousing, and even when we've been successful with data warehousing, data delivery is just slow. So we're trying to do things to get data to the guys more quickly, so we've been sandboxing. So part of the analytics data mart has a sandbox in it. And again, the idea is we're trying to minimize the amount of grunt work that the consumers of this data have to do. So operational sources, analytic data mart, technical people, if anyone's interested, that's Oracle and Exadata. And then we get into the decisioning engine. When we procured this project, when we started going, we were thinking about marketing decisioning. But actually, this is just a decisioning engine. We've started using it for marketing messages, but we're getting to a space now where we're using it for operational messages. And actually, there's a few IT projects that want to use this stuff now. So one of the examples there is we've got customer authentication. If people are coming in externally over some sort of web application and changing passwords and stuff like that, we want to be able to recognize that sort of thing and then send out some sort of message, some sort of communication to the customer to communicate. And we're doing that sort of thing through our decisioning engine. And our decisioning engine then communicates to the customer touch points. The customer touch points, traditionally it's what we call an agent desktop. So we've got customer services people sitting in a call center with this application in front of them. And what we're doing is we're using the decisioning engine to give them targeted messages. So what is the most sensible thing or the most valuable thing that our CSRs can have a customer conversation about? It might not be sales, it might not be trying to sell somebody a product. It might be about trying to improve data quality, trying to improve the quality of our email addresses so we can communicate more efficiently and more commercially viably with our customers. So the customer touch points include authenticated website, unauthenticated website, and the outbound campaigning, we're putting it out through the email service provider, but we're also pushing out campaign requirements to the traditional white mail. Because within the decisioning engine, we've replaced the traditional outbound marketing campaign with this decisioning engine. So as well as doing outbound marketing, it's doing inbound marketing. Because we want to communicate with customers when they're engaged with Standard Life. You send out white mail or you send out an email, who reads it? If someone's genuinely logged into one of our websites, that might be a good time to give them the message. So we try to give them timely messages. We try to make them relevant. So we're not going to bother with telling 25-year-old people that it's time to set out on a retirement journey. But if somebody who logs in and we happen to know they're 50, then we might start talking to them about retirement journey. And we can only do that because we've got all the information about the customer and we put it through the campaigns and the decisioning engine. But the point is, if you go into the website and the website says, we're talking to you about retirement journey, if you then phone a CSR and you're caught in the queue and somebody's sending you marketing messages, or if the CSR wants to talk to you about something, really it should be retirement journey. If you're getting one channel saying talk about retirement journey, other channels should be doing the same. Am I okay for time? Yeah. So that's what's happening in the decisioning engine, and we pass it over into the customer touch points and we get a consistent view. And then down at the bottom it says measurement and insight, because one of the key things about this is we have to measure how efficient our marketing campaigns are and our activities are. So measurement's key to this sort of thing. When we embarked on this process, although I'm talking about technical architecture, this was a real transformation of business processes, of the marketing function. It wasn't just about technology. And one of my colleagues said, if we do the technical solution or the non-technical side of the solution, the non-technical side's more important. But obviously the two things have to work together. So what I like to do with this thing now is, this is the technical view, but what I like to do now is sort of say, I can go back to the key points that Firas has been making. So with our decisioning engine, we send out timely, relevant and personalised messages. Always on marketing. But because we're doing the inbound thing when people log on to the website, we're marketing them when they're engaged. That's always on marketing. omni-channel. So that's the thing about however you communicate with us, we'll give you a consistent message. Fact-based decisioning, I spoke a bit about that. So some of my IT colleagues like to tease me about the fact I end up using more marketing terms than IT terms, but I can live with that. I've actually just put the phrase marketecture onto my LinkedIn page today. We'll see what kind of feedback I get. Segment of one, so that's the thing where we're absolutely personalising the communications that we give to customers. It's no longer these very large population segmentations. And figure-based, so in the future, we don't do this just now, but in the future, the aim is that we will be able to kick off communications in response to something happening. So the customer authentication thing where the password's changed. Those are the areas that we're getting to. So I've just tried to explain at a high level a bit about the architecture, but more importantly, how it relates to the concepts and the marketing aspirations that my colleagues have. And next.
So this is a bunch of mariachis. No, there. I guess we've been talking a lot about technology and data, etc. But I mean, really, the thing that really mattered in all of this equation is the people. As you know, we went on a massive recruitment spree at the beginning of last year. Across data and analytics, we had about 5-6 people, I would say. And now we're about 50. So that's the kind of trajectory we had to go on. And the kind of people that we got in are people from different industries, people who are not even data related. I've been a comms guy and a DM guy all my life. And then all of a sudden I'm in a role like this. So, so it wasn't really, we weren't recruiting people based on what is the exact skill set that you have, but do you embody the right spirit and attitude that we need for the business to actually drive this stuff forward. And I think that we've been relatively successful in that, and we've been able to attract some great talent. Working as well with the comic guys, has been absolutely key. And to Jim's point as well, is we embedded IT within marketing, which was something, and our chief marketing officer talks about a marriage, how marketing married IT, and it's played out a little bit too much, and so there are lots of slides about with very weird pictures on them, but I mean, if you take that aside, essentially, it's a very sound concept, and we've seen when the guys are talking about speed of implementation, IBM recognizing that we're able to do this stuff within 4 months. This is really down to IT, marketing, working hand in hand, none of the usual kind of traditional processes that you have to go through when you have a change project of this kind of magnitude in an organization. So this one, I'm going to pass back to David. Sure. So David's going to talk to you about our predictive analytics function and our wider analytics function. So just to kind of give you a quick overview, the team and the structure of the team is, so my team does, if you want, all the communication, but we've got a predictive analytics team that supports us, and we've got a BI team that supports us. And across these 3 teams, we work in a very integrated fashion to be able to deliver results back to the business. So David will touch on that a bit.
So our role in terms of working with the that we work with. One of the things we've been doing with the data science team is then looking at both the predictive around propensity models, but also segmentation. And we're increasingly getting to more and more techniques around text analytics, data visualization, to really try and get at the insight, the nugget of insight that's actually going to drive the positive experience through the decisioning engine. We could probably do a whole separate session on predictive analytics, so if there's a need for that, I'm happy to go with Firas, and we can get the decision the analytics guys to come back, and we do a separate session just on the data science part. One thing that is quite key is that it's really around the speed. So there's no point in taking 3 months to develop a propensity model, a statistical model, if it then takes you a further 3 months to get it into live activity. So working with Jim and the team, what we've been able to do is then say, well, actually, realistically, how quickly can we make some of these things happen? Jim spoke about the customer aggregate record and the interaction data store, and because they're refreshed, in some cases real time, but at the very least nightly, we've then got a raft of data to build models and actually test and challenge. So we could have a scenario whereby, as a team of analysts, we could be building a new model, challenging it within the day, and then it being live through Firaz's team the following day. And that's really the speed of turnaround that we're looking for. Working with the business intelligence, we've then been looking at the dashboard reporting. And it's not just, it's really very much interactive dashboards through the Tableau software. That then means that as a group, we can get together and actually real time deep dive into some of the observations that we're seeing, whether it's on campaign or customer conversation reporting, or actually is there another particular business problem that we want to assess. And it could be something to do with the contact center, it could be something to do with the website, but you're actually drilling into some of the detail, slicing and dicing in real time, and again looking for that actionable insight. And it's that we can then come back with the marketing guys or the operations guys and replay what we've seen, and with an interpretation of what we think it means for the business. So that's on the analytics and the sort of the real importance of that in what we're doing to really improve the customer experience and develop the engagement with over 4 million customers. What we'd like to do now is talk a little bit around where that's going now. So Firas is going to take us through the sort of future applications.
So I think the key word over here, I mean, when we started with this project, there was a key phrase that we kept talking about, which is smarter customer engagement at scale. And if we start dissecting that sentence and see the relevancy of it when we started off with the project and today, I think it's really significant. So smart, we talked about understanding our customers more, etc. Scaling up, and the infrastructure that was built in, the capabilities that we now had allowed us to scale up. But the point that I really want to stress is customer engagement, is that we ventured off from within marketing to say that we were bringing in a marketing tool to actually deliver all of this stuff. What we realized is effectively the whole rest of the business, including operations, IT, everybody had use for this capability. So marketing as such is no longer relevant as a term to talk about the stuff that we do. So this is why we're referring to this stuff now as customer engagement. So irrelevant of where we are in the business, operations do customer engagement, marketing do customer engagement. And effectively what we've built is a platform to be able to engage better with our customers. As a result of this whole exercise, we've managed to simplify a lot of our infrastructure and the tools that we have. So on a very practical level, my team, who used to be able to do a campaign in 2 days, can now do a campaign in 2 hours. You know, they used to be able to do, have to use various tools to actually get something out. Now they just need one tool. And the data is actually in a really good place and really good shape for them to actually start using it. We're noticing that we're bringing down internal costs. So as a result of this, I mean, one of the things is, I mean, Jim talked about a host of IT projects that are looking at us right now and saying, actually, I could shave £300,000 or £500,000 off my IT project just by using your kit instead of me trying to find another way to actually deliver some of this stuff. But also some of the value that we're seeing is in operations. As you might know, that as a result of pension freedoms, our call centers have just gone a bit crazy. Is that people have been calling in for months now, and saying, I want stuff, you guys need to be able to support me. So by us using some of this capability and actually bringing down some of that demand in the call center on a very operational level, that's bringing back a lot of benefit, a lot of cost benefit back to the organization. So in effect, yes, it did cost money to get this technology in, but what we're seeing is very quickly this stuff is paying for itself in ways that sometimes we didn't anticipate, and the demand internally is starting to demonstrate how this is taking shape. We are able to go back to the personalization point that I talked about earlier, is we're able to do dynamic content, and we're able to do it at this scale. So we're able to do next best action and all these wonderful things using the capability that we now have. And this is, when I joined the organization 12 months ago, no, a bit more, probably 18 months ago, it was what a colleague of mine would call a spray and pray approach to marketing, which is we want to target the maximum amount of people, just target them and we'll see what we'll get at the end of it. So that's completely shifted, and we're in a next best action world right now where we're able to personalize these recommendations to our customers. We're able to ramp up. So yes, we don't want to do spray and pray stuff. We want to be able to do more of these interactions with customers, but now it's automated. So we're able to do a lot more of these interactions at a very smaller scale and at a much more personalized level. And it's giving us a lot more power in that space. We're able to build journeys which are multi-staged, and we never used to be able to do that with the old kit. So we could say that the journey looks like that and actually build it in relatively little time. But what's really interesting also for me is the way that we are able to change the way that we function. The technology has not only brought us more capability, but it's changed the way that we operate internally as an organization. So to go back to the slides and the video that you saw from the Chief Marketing Officer about operating like a retailer, if we want to say that we're operating like a retailer, then we need to have a strong commercial focus. So we've built processes around how could, if we knew that we were down on specific targets on a certain week, how quickly could we change stuff around? How could we change the weighting of the messages and the stuff to actually start reflecting that? And so that requires change not only across our team, it requires change across the organization and the way they function in terms of having the trading focus and having the ability to actually change direction at a very fast pace, which is, to be honest, in retail banking, and some of you who operate in retail banking, this is bread and butter stuff, and who function in retail, but in the pensions, savings and investments world, this is a massive change. So we're able to deliver an improved customer experience. So all of these, like I was mentioning in the customer operations space, and you know, we're able to demonstrate that customers are tangibly giving us feedback that's saying this stuff is making it more relevant. The messages you're giving us are more relevant. We appreciate the conversation. The call center agents are thinking, you guys are giving us the right messages to be able to talk to our customers about, whereas we were struggling to have these conversations previous to that. So Andy Murray, we sponsor him, as you can see. So basically this is about the successes we've had. So some of the stuff that we've talked about. So inbound was an area that we really focused on. And through bringing in the predictive analytics capability, bringing in stuff like attrition models into the call center, we've been able to see a 24% uplift in the customers we've retained. In a pension freedoms world, our customers could just take their money and just walk away. So retention is a very big focus for us as an organization, and we've really been able to hone down on using some of these models, using that capability, tying it in with the technology to be able to deliver on the strategic objectives that we have around retention. It also, we've seen stuff on a campaign-to-campaign basis or an interaction-to-interaction basis, or where we've found a reduction in about 40% of campaign costs just because of the way we're actually targeting nowadays. So even from that spray and pray approach that we applied only 18 months ago to us being a bit more intelligent, taking advantage of the BI capability and the predictive capability, we've seen that we're able to reduce campaign costs by about 40%. And the sales uplift on the campaigns has gone up by about 50%. So there's demonstrable business benefit on several levels. And I think there's a customer experience benefit, and we measure stuff also through NPS, where we've seen, over a 15% uplift in NPS scores, as a result of the stuff. And in addition to some of the feedback that we're getting directly from the call centers to say, we're really appreciating the relevant conversations that we're having with you on the phone. So that's it really in a nutshell. Do you have any questions?
I would have a question for Jim about the data quality.
Sure.
You were talking that you needed to find some compromises with data quality, like compared to how long it would take to resolve it perfectly. And what you had to do. So just question, what were the biggest data quality issues you had, and how did you tackle them? Just like a high-level overview.
Standard Life is it's a business that's been on the go for a long time, and I think it installed its first computer in the 1960s. We've been building applications ever since then, and the way we've built our legacy applications, we've tended to build a new application for every new product that we've built to date. It doesn't mesh. So, are we as bad as our competitors for this sort of thing? Possibly not. We've not been subject to merger and acquisition. One of the things that when we've been talking to some external partners about is we actually know how many customers we've got. Some of our competitors don't. And it's a data integration issue. So if you're in a company like Aviva, you've had a few mergers and acquisitions, different customer systems coming together, different representations of customers. So our data, we have data quality problems, yeah. I suspect other people have bigger data quality problems, but it's still painful because it stops us doing what we really want to do, which is exploiting the data for commercial benefit. Does that help?
Yeah, just one question. Do you still know how many customers you have after AXA acquisition, AXA Wealth?
Oh, the Elevate thing?
Yeah. Because there will be some overlap at this point.
So can I be really pedantic about that? That deal's not gone through yet, so I can sidestep that question.
Yeah.
So see when I say we know how many customers we mean, I sort of mean to the nearest 500,000. And with the number of customers in the Elevate acquisition, that's not going to change that. A lot of our competitors don't know that.
Why is the segment of one so important, and how did you get there, and what does it mean to the business?
I think in terms of why it's so important, I'm going to defer to my marketing colleagues, but we haven't entirely got there yet, but we think we're building the technology and the capability to get there. So what I showed you was an architecture. It's not complete, it's a target state, it's where we want to go to, that's how we think we'll get to it. We think we're developing the capability to get there, we've not done it yet.
Segment of one, I think, is one of these things where you set yourself a really ambitious target. That's our really ambitious target, and that's where we want to get to, is that we want to have the belief that we are able to address each customer as a customer, understanding exactly who they are, what they want, and be able, effectively, at some points we talked about a business case per customer, or, is that this is the kind of target state that we want to arrive to. Are we there now? No. But we are getting there. So it's a journey for us. But I think in all of these journeys, it's always good to kind of focus on where is it that you want to get to in this kind of relevancy / personalization game. And I think it's there as a vision statement.
I'd also say, segment one is in the section of the individual, so the section what they feel that being treated as an individual. Actually, you've got a number of people that all want to be treated in that same way. But the blood is pretend we're individuals. Unfortunately, there's been staff world out here who recognise, unfortunately, there's a lot of herd-like behaviour. Quite a lot of us behave in very similar ways. As long as you feel that you, as a customer, you've been treated as an individual, is an important piece. That's the true summary.
So I was going to say, in terms of the platforms that you've got currently, in terms of developments from third parties, you say we're running an IBM system at the moment?
Yeah, the decisioning engine we've got the IBM Experience One product suite. So I know the products as IBM Campaign and IBM Interact, but I believe it used to be called Unica.
In the past, it's called Unica.
So in terms of other third parties developments that you may look to implement, how easy would that be to do on current
What to integrate with these tools?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, our main integration points are it's really data. It's either input data from our systems that define who our customers are and what they've been up to, and in terms of when we integrate with other touch points, if it's a batch integration, it will be through data, but we also have APIs that we integrate with. So our customer desktop, the tool the CSRs have in the call centre, is making real-time calls into IBM Interact through REST APIs to actually be told what the next best conversation is to have with the customer. Yeah, hi.
So you talked about moving to a sort of trigger-based architecture. So pensions is essentially a low-frequency activity in comparison to, say, retail banking. How are you trying to get to a higher frequency of trigger-based interactions with the customer base?
I think in that sense, I think we were in a very privileged position, is that we have a few key points with our customers that we need to absolutely make sure that we're getting the experience really right. So actually we have a really good shot at actually cracking the customer experience bit and focusing on these key moments to deliver that experience. I don't know, does that answer your question?
I think the one thing I would say is, I mean, it's never going to be high frequency. It's not like a retail bank. It's not. We don't have that kind of transactional activity, and I don't really see us ever having that kind of transactional activity in this business. But I mean, it could be a scenario like detecting dropped basket scenarios. People go through the website, triggering off a small campaign message type thing going out. That's what I view as triggering.
Yeah. It's part of data, it's also part of changing your communication. So you've got something like a customer account or a single bank, silent banking piece, authenticated account. It's not just a technical aspect. Yes, there might be very few decisions each year. It's actually changing the way you do your comms. So rather than putting all the information in comms, encourage the customer to come and log in into your apps, into your single sign-on. That has two advantages. One, it encourages users to come in there, you then use that for inbound communications and be more personalised there. Secondly, we're all facing the issue of customer matching and matching devices and cookies to customers. The more devices you can get customers to actually authenticate themselves, the more personalisation you can do downstream. So sometimes it's not just the technical piece we're looking at, it's the way that you interact with your customers, the comms you set up to build up a wider set of understanding of the customer and what devices they use.
The other thing is it depends on the definition of transaction. So if we think as interaction, we get hundreds of phone calls to the contact center saying, please choose my address. Can you give me an update? I've sent you this form, I can give you an update. So when we think about transaction as interaction, engagement, it actually wasn't maybe you get a monthly payment into your pension, actually there could be hundreds of customer demands that expectation of interaction. So really, for us, we as touched on earlier, it's more about the engagement. So I think about a broader definition of those
So, to deliver this kind of change, I'm presuming that within the team you have to require a culture change about how you go about things.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that a bit?
Sure.
Without me asking you to do a whole...
No, not at all, not at all. I mean, and the guys sitting over here as well, by the way, were pivotal into this. So basically, the way that we're able to deliver it is we created a brand, and that brand was called Novo. And the brand had its own mascot, and we were able to, I think, we were very good at being able to identify the stakeholders around the business who we needed to take on the journey with us, and we're able to engage. So very ironically, we managed to build a brand that was so strong internally through this thing that was called Novo. About 8 months ago, we decided to kill Novo, and so we decided to kill the elephant, which was the brand mascot, and we decided to go by a different name because we said, you know what, we've delivered the change. We're into BAU right now, so let's just kill this. But effectively, the ironic thing is that even though we call ourselves a different name by now, as soon as they're like, oh, you're Novo. Oh, wow, that's amazing. So I think we did a really good internal communication piece, and we did a really good stakeholder piece to make sure that the right players on an exec level, on a board level, and also on an executional, and senior management level, were bought in to the capability to what we're actually able to deliver. And I think we're extremely successful in that.
I had a couple of things.
Sure.
The very first meeting we kicked all this off, I sat around with most of the senior marketing leadership team, and the comment they used, which was just music to my ears, was John, we've got a choice between changing the technology and changing the culture. We'll change the culture, and that just the fact they started from that point was just so refreshing and so powerful. I'd also say that having IT embedded in there and people like Jim from day one, the best presentation I actually saw on Nova in the 18 months I was being involved was Jim describing to the business what the change was going on in business language, and that the fact that IT and business were just seamless, and that the decisioning projects were a real challenge both within the project phase and also in BAU on traditional IT delivery models, and the fact that those two are working together really important.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Schmidt.
Couple of call centre related questions, but she's serving up these next-based actions in the call centre, right? So three small questions would be: how many decisions do you serve up? What kind of work did you have to do to maybe change call centre agent incentivization around, key performance indicators, adherence to the decisions that have been presented, and what did you have to do organisationally to try and drive that through? Because sometimes you've got to deal with increased call handling times, which pose operational problems in the call centre. So
I could take that one off, and then whoever wants to feed in could feed in. But basically, we have somewhere between 70 and 100 messages which are firing out at the moment, mostly based on predictive models that we've actually put in place. I think initially the response was very welcome from the call center agents, because they were able to appreciate that the messages that we wanted them to, that we're serving through the system, were actually making the conversation that much more relevant to them on the phone. Whereas in the past, they had to actually sit on a phone call, go through a customer record, take a look at the whole interaction history to be able to think, right, what am I going to talk to this person about? So effectively, if we're able to simplify that and give them 3 messages that, okay, these are the top 3 things that you could talk about, then it's great. The hurdle that we ran into was that the call center agents had a script that was very specific and was very rigid and very fixed that they needed to adhere to. So then what we started noticing is that the utilization of the messages was actually starting to dip, because they were struggling to actually go through the script as it is, and then over and above that try to use some of these messages to interact with the customers. So what we're doing right now is we're actually integrating the decisioning capability into the script. So the script that was rigid, we're making it unrigid, and we're putting decisioning capability over there, so that effectively the next conversation that the agent is going to have is the next best action, or so it's the next best conversation, I guess, that they're going to have in the call center. So that's the major challenge that we've faced so far, and that's how we're overcoming it. Does that answer a bit?
Yeah.
Anything else?
Can I just say one thing? The sort of thing you're talking about actually impacted data quality, because the people in the call centre were under pressure to finish the calls in a certain time frame, and we had a thing that we still do called post-call wrap-up, where we were asking the agents to actually fill in what the call had been about and indications of how they thought the call had went. And because they were under pressure to finish the call quickly, we actually found a couple of months later that a lot of the data wasn't very good. But the reason we found that sort of stuff out was we were looking at the data. We were also measuring. I mean, when the messages went into the call centre, we put some MI in place to actually measure who was giving out most messages, who wasn't using the messaging at all, and without sounding too Maoist, we could put people through retraining programs. The education. We've had some interesting analogies. Apparently, our marketing used to be Stalinist planning, but it isn't anymore. The 5-year plan. This is what you will do, and all that sort of stuff. But in the call centre, where we found that people weren't using the messages, we could identify that, and so then we'd mention to the team leaders that perhaps they should do more training with some of their people. So, but I mean, that's part of our ethos and our culture, that we have to measure performance in all sorts of ways so we can adapt to these things.
And that's a key part of the cultural change between each of the channels, marketing and CRM, is having the MI in place and having small decision groups to bring representatives of those people together to say how the message is performing, what new messages we want, what change we want to make. We change local incentives for a short term. So actually bringing people to talk together. And the important part from the analytics side is not just reporting on what's happened, but when you're going to make the changes, forecasting the effect and say, actually, if we make these changes, upweight these, downweight these, what's the likely effect of next week? We have the same people calling in next week that we had last week. Can we forecast the results? So what the guys have done really well, both at that very local level, right up to the business planning level, is a very forecasted approach to scenario planning. That's changed the culture to a very much data-driven, informed decision making, rather than just gut feel, take last year's Excel spreadsheet and we'll just add a little bit to that. Well, also, the important part of the cultural piece that takes into, it stops the whole cultural thing about running to change the organisation, be customer-centric, and all the conceptual conversations, who's going to own journeys, who's going to own decisions. Be far more practical about, can we change that message, we're not going to change that message, what are we going to do next week? It takes away a lot of the politics, ultimately makes a far more practical cultural change.
One quick question. Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah,
have you considered implementing blockchain for your ecosystem? If so, what benefits, obstacles do you see in the industry?
No, we've not been looking at blockchain. But I mean, I work in an architecture function, and we're starting to talk about what is blockchain, how might it be relevant to us in the future. We've not done anything about blockchain, no.
Right, so just for my curiosity, what time horizon? Looking at like 5, 10 years?
Oh, it's very aspirational at the minute. I couldn't even give you a time horizon. So as architects, we need to be trying to look at technology trends. We might not do it as quickly as perhaps people do in academia, but we're not really beyond what is blockchain, what might it mean for us in the distant future. Getting large financial organisations like Standard Life to keep up to the forefront of these things. We're leading edge with this kind of stuff. We're having enough difficulty getting our management and particularly the IT management to think in a data-led way without even getting towards things like blockchain yet. Yeah, hi.
Colin mentioned about the conversion uplift for acquisition. Has that been different across your different channels? You mentioned omni-channel, but has it been different against digital versus call center?
I mean, I think where we're seeing the highest uplift is actually in inbound, because outbound is, by just the nature of it, is we decide to go have a conversation with the customer. We might think that the group of people that we're talking about are more prone to receive this, message well, but I think inbound is infinitely more powerful because, first of all, we've got the person's attention. They've come to us, and we're not actually trying to vouch and fish for their attention. And we are able to identify the relevancy of the messages through what John was talking about, weightings and to make sure that this is the right message that we need to serve. So effectively, we're seeing the highest returns on inbound, much more than outbound. Does that mean I go quiet? No. What would, sorry?
What will the impact of the policy changes from the government for workplace pensions? What will that have for the digital channel? Will that change your...
Well, I mean, what's happening on the digital channel right now is that because of the demand crunch that we have on the call center, is a lot of the stuff is having to be diverted digitally, and so there's an enormous focus internally on creating digital journeys, creating a more seamless digital experience for our customers. So that is something that we haven't fully cracked yet, but it's something which is definitely part of the agenda in the coming year.
It's also linking there some of the operational and marketing communications. So shifting some of the demand from the contact centre, some of the pension processes take a long time. You're getting a lot of call demand into the contact centre. Where's the status of this is happening, etc. Using actually interactions that are triggers along that operational process to get communications out to the customer to reduce call demand has an effect on a cost basis. There's also a secondary element, is you actually push that out to say, Okay, we've got that pension consolidation. Go to your customer account, back to the earlier point, go to your customer account, check the new balance of your account. So again, you're starting to create more inbound interactions into your digital channels that are allowing you to, again, personalise those interactions. So again, it's not just about technology conversations. Actually, you've got those new pieces of technology. Thinking about how you can use those to connect the different touch points. And I think sometimes the conversation about individual touch points is less relevant than actually how they're joined together to make an overall journey. So the incremental pieces in the overall total.
Just one more question, please. Anybody else?
That's it, you scared them with that noise that you made.
Last order of the bar.
Just a question on agility. I think you mentioned a couple of data points, campaign from 2 days to 2 hours,
Yeah.
model within 24 hours. Could you comment on the agility on the data side? So if you wanted to bring in new data sources to the platform, what kind of agility are you inspired?
I think Jim is a better place to
So we've got a mixed landscape, but the people who are mainly providing data to us do work in an agile fashion, but they're not dedicated resource. So we get a certain amount of access to these guys, and they do work in an agile fashion. They do some sort of Scrum methodology, and they talk about fun all the time and all sorts of bizarre things, and they are quite agile. But again, we don't solely have access to them, so our work tends to get prioritised. So is it agile in terms of we ask for something and we get it in a couple of days? Sadly, it's not quite like that. It tends to take a little bit longer than that. But as a company, I mean, it's not totally across the board, but we are trying to work in an agile fashion where we can, because the thing I was saying earlier about, particularly with delivery of data, people don't know what the shape of the data absolutely is. And the very first, I've got a background in data warehousing, and the very first data warehousing project I worked on got killed by the fact that people would specify a change, would build an ETL, would do a release of code, would put it into system test, and then it would fall over again. And for fault fixing, we had a dreadful cycle. It was about 2 or 3 weeks to fix faults. So we definitely tried to get away from that kind of thing. And the point I made earlier was, you can't say we're not going to have any changes here. What you have to do is you have to get yourself a development culture that works with change, not against change. I can't give you definitive answers, but because there aren't any. Well, I don't think there are.
I think Jim's being modest here. There's some really interesting and I think quite revolutionary things that Jim has led at Standard Life in terms of the way that architecture was put together, things like the sandboxes and sandpits, and being able to load data in really quickly, play with it, and the governance put around that says, you load data in, you get an external person, say, sitting on Prince's Street, capturing a whole lot of survey information, get that into the marketing database, use it straight away. If you can, but the governance around that is, you've got to prove you can use it and get value out of it. If you can get value out of it, then you get rules to put it into the main database on an ongoing basis and operationalise that. The way that they open up the data to allow various data users to use pretty much the raw data in places, and rather than having to wait for it all to be transformed before they can use it, and trusting the data users to use that, if again they can remove commercial value out of some of the transformations they're doing, they want to use those regularly, then come back, feed it into the process. The fact that in the cultural code, the Ferras's team, when they're doing the campaign planning, data people were involved in that straight away to pull data in and say, we need this data translation. That feeds into the priorities, into those sprints. This is where decisioning programs challenge the traditional IT model in that you can't necessarily say, these are all the changes I'm going to need over the next 12 months. You've got to say, I'm going to need X amount of FTE resource over the next year. I can't tell you how I'm going to use it, but each sprint I can come and tell you what the priorities are, and they might even change from the last sprint meeting. Those are the things that have really affected some of the cultural change and generated the agility at Standard Life.
Yeah. So I mean, John is right, and I guess what I was focusing on is once we've so we're working a kind of a bimodal way, and once we've worked out there is value in the data, then we have to go to the teams that are potentially going to go back and do it properly, loosely. I use that phrase, and that's not always as quick as we want it to be. But yeah, we're having to just the sandboxing to as I say, to try and work in a bimodal fashion.
Right. No, thanks very much for Standard Life and Product tonight, and taking the time with that business case to present. So,
Thank you.
It's just great to see another full house tonight. It's great to see the community growing. Probably been 700 attendees every month now. We've got meetings scheduled for September. I think it's a full house in October, 110 confirmed. So if anybody's keen to present, let them know as well. But great to see you guys coming on. So thanks very much for that. I know it's through NBN we ran eventually Standard Life in 2012. It was it probably started the journey. It was Steve Ingledew and Howard spoke about the kind of journey that we're going on. And it was 2014, an absolutely cracking event in Standard Life's office with Mary Harper present and Howard and Stephen and a few others. And now 2016 year kind of journey again. So it's great to see how it's progressing over the past few years. And it's great to see how kind of Scotland as well. It's at NBN we've been working in the data industry for a number of years now, and probably 90% of our business was London and outside of Scotland until the past 2 years. Now it's kind of 60-40, and so not long before it's kind of 50-50. So great to see Scotland progress in the community building. So thanks everybody. Great event. I think Juice, if you something else to
yeah, I will get hammered by our education manager tomorrow if I don't mention we've still got places on the data science camp. We're partnering with Data Incubation from New York. We're flying over on the 12th of September for 3 weeks. Module Introduction to Data Science, Data Visualization and Verbalization and Machine Learning. So if anybody's interested in any of the weeks or the 3 weeks until give me a shout, deals can be done at this stage.
Thanks again everybody.